A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase.
Hello everybody, and welcome to a beach called Llyn here in North Wales. Lovely little spot, and I've been here a couple of times but never to film a video. So today I thought I'd rectify that with an Instax Mini 11. I bought this primarily to take pictures of my little boy a couple of months ago, which I've done plenty of, but I thought might be interesting to come somewhere like this and try and do a bit of landscape photography too. This might go horribly wrong, but if it does, I can go and drown my sorrows in that pub over there. There's a pub on the beach, so could be worse. I enjoy a photography challenge, I really do. I've done lots of them on this channel, at specific focal lengths, specific amounts of time, a limitation on the number of shots. This one I do feel quite nervous about though. I've brought one cartridge with me, so that's 10 shots, and my aim is to try and spend the next 3 hours until sunset trying to capture the essence of this place, I suppose, with 10 shots in this cartridge. And then I've got to show you the photos, which is the bit I'm nervous about. Haven't bought any other cameras with me. I mean, I have. I've got this one that I'm filming on, my GoPro and my phone, but this is the only camera I intend to take photos with, so probably the only photos that you'll see. Right, without further ado, let's go and have a go. Okay, so shot number one is not a terrible effort, I don't think. But the thing I thought might be a problem, turns out is a problem, which is overexposure. See, the maximum shutter speed of this camera, or the minimum shutter speed I should say, is 1/250th of a second, or 1/400th of a second. I couldn't find the exact answer, but basically not that fast. And so in bright scenes like this, with no control over the aperture, you're gonna have problems with overexposure. Also, the flash goes off automatically, which doesn't particularly matter for places like this, but some places that wouldn't help. Now, unfortunately for me, I don't even have my sunglasses with me today, which I could have put over the lens to reduce that problem. Fortunately, however, I'm recording video, and as such, I do have ND filters with me, which makes me look horrible now, but I could just pop one of those in front of the lens for future shots before the sun gets lower. So maybe I'll have to do that. Gonna head towards the pub. Right, so 9 shots left, and already I'm worrying that I'm eyeing up shots that I really shouldn't be, because the grass will maybe be greener over there. But I think this over here is nice. I'm far enough away from that house in the distance now that it's quite like a nice simple scene with the green cliff in the backdrop. I like that. Now, ordinarily what I would do for a shot like this is try to maximise the reflection by getting low, but I don't have all that much confidence in this lens being sharp in the corners, and so I don't want blurry distraction in the corners, and therefore I'm just going to stand up tall and try not to have anything super close to the lens. Press the shutter accidentally. Okay, this is 9 shots with the Instax Mini 11. Right, I'm going to try and forget that that's just happened. Use a filter, polarizer in this case, and see how we go. I still think this is potentially quite a nice shot. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I suppose we'll see. Right, well, I would have loved to have been able to dedicate one of the 10 images to something quite abstract. Shapes in the sand, rocks, something like that. But I feel like I've already used up that shot with, well, a shot that I didn't mean to take. And unfortunately, it's not turned out that good. Doesn't look particularly arty, that, does it? It looks like I've pressed the shutter when I didn't mean to. Still, the polarized shot of the house in the background came out okay. Now, to be honest, what I would say is that I think the perfect exposure for that scene is something between what we've got and what the camera would have got without the polarizer, because I actually think some of these stones in the foreground don't particularly add anything to the scene, and overexposing a little bit would have made those a little bit less distracting. But it turns out in the Instax Mini 11 you can't control your exposure by thirds of a stop, so never mind. Also, I don't know what this blue bit up here is. Anyone know what that is? No. Right, 8 photos, no, 7 photos, sadly, to go. That way. Right, I don't know if this is frowned upon in the Instax community, but I've taken a landscape shot, and these bits of film are clearly portrait because, well, one side's bigger than the other, so it's a bit messy to have a landscape shot, but it doesn't particularly matter. I thought this scene looked quite nice because you've got the buildings and then the hill makes for quite a nice shape, particularly if it's going to be a bit overexposed, because it'll be nicely, well, it'll stand out nicely against a very bright background, is the hope. You might be able to see that there's somebody up there. I don't know if I caught them at a really good moment with this shot though. Hopefully they're stood out against the background, but they might have been hidden. I'm just trying to work out whether I think this buoy, whatever you call it, is worth a shot with those buildings in the background. I think it might be, it's just that I've already got a shot of those buildings, so it's a bit annoying. And also actually, the person who was up there doesn't look like they've come out in this shot. A split second before I took this shot, I think, the person was stood on top of the cliff, but they've moved. The trouble when you only take one shot, you're going to miss stuff like that. Still, I shouldn't complain too much. The first shot that I took, I did get the reflection of the dog, so swings and roundabouts, as they say. I think I will get a photo of this though, so I'll be careful with my footprints before I take it. This is it. Just got to hope the corners are relatively sharp, because from this distance, the rope and the buoy spreads across the entire width of the frame. So yeah, fingers crossed. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I'm talking like all of this matters. It really doesn't. I'm just here for fun. There is literally no point to today other than me getting a lesson in when not to press shutters. Okay, I didn't use a filter, so it's pretty overexposed, but I think it looks pretty cool. I'd like to get a shot of these boats at some point, but I think they're a bit far away with this focal length, which, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, somewhere between 24 and 35, I think. Bit far, but if I walk around the headland, maybe I'll get a decent perspective. Also, that last shot I quite liked. I think it just looked like a nice coastal scene. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got the garage or shed, whatever that might be, but then a path that leads down to the beach, and just in the distance, kind of highlighted by this grassy mound, is a nice building. That white building, in fact, just there. I think that works quite well as a photo. Okay, so 4 shots to go, and I'm heading towards the pub. It looks closed, which is probably a good thing. I might have been tempted. I have been here a couple of times before when fishermen have come round into the bay at the end of the day with their catch. I don't know if I'll get that lucky today, but that might present some opportunities. I've only got 4 of them, but you never know. They've arrived with the day's catch. Tractor in the sea always looks quite cool, I think. So obviously you've got the tractor, you've got the boat that they're unloading, but then you've got the 2 silhouettes of people, which I think works brilliantly to give some dynamism to the scene. But then also you've got this band of seaweed, which works pretty well as a leading line, which I might go back down and experiment with in a minute. That line of seaweed there for the last couple of shots. Now, initially, when I came up here to the top of this cliff, I was thinking that I'd get a shot of the sweeping buildings around the beach, but actually I don't think the Instax is wide enough to really capture that. So I need a new plan, and I'm thinking of getting a shot of those two boats over there. Now I don't know if you can see them. It's those two. There's a yellow one and a red one. And I think it might turn into quite a nice minimal shot. I'm taking a bit of a risk though, taking a photo of those two boats, because the format is tiny. I mean, these photos come out smaller than how a photo on Instagram on your phone looks. So tiny little details like that might just look completely obscure. I don't know what to do. I've got 3 shots left. I will get this one, and then I've got 2 more to play with on the way back to the car. Light's getting a bit more sensible now as well, so I'm not going to faff around with the polarizer. I'm going to go with a rule of thirds, 2/3 sky, 1/3 land or sea, just to emphasize the minimalism of the shot. See how we go. That doesn't get boring. It hasn't for me yet anyway. Right, I'm back from up there, obviously, and I don't think that experiment really worked. I mean, the boats are just a long way away, and I don't think this camera really excels when you're taking photos of things a long way away. Not the sharpest image I've ever seen in my life. That's the pub, by the way. 2 photos to get. And as I mentioned, I think I will start with this leading line, going all the way to those buildings, and the rock that's the same sort of colour as a lot of this seaweed, which I think works quite well. So see how that looks. Yeah, it's overexposed still. That's annoying because it's got the hallmarks of a decent image, but it's just really overexposed. No! Right, I think I've found my 10th image. You might recognise the yellow building from a previous image, and I think from this angle, with the other house behind it, it looks quite nice, and you've got this kind of slipway to the beach. I think it works quite well. My only reservation is that really I still do want some sort of abstract image from the 10, and this is my 10th. If I take this, I won't get an abstract image, apart from the one I didn't mean to take, which really isn't an abstract photo, it's just rubbish. I'm going to do it. Semi-regret that. I mean, I suppose what I should regret most is just not bringing another cartridge. That would have been the sensible thing to do.
Well, let me tell you something you already know. This camera is not that great for landscape photography. The image quality is meh, and usability is likewise. A couple of suggestions for improving the usability. Can't believe I'm going to say this, but a tripod plate would be quite nice, together with a very simple 10-second self-timer. That'd be pretty handy. And also, perhaps a more important point, maybe a design where your index finger doesn't sit naturally on the shutter. See, with any other camera, your index finger has lots of places it can sit other than the shutter, so you're not naturally pressing the shutter. I mean, with a digital camera, it's not massively important if you accidentally press the shutter anyway, but with this camera, well, it costs you $1, £1 or €1 every time you press the shutter, so if you do it accidentally, that's a bit of a pain. But anyway, perhaps I'm being a bit too serious about this camera, because clearly it's not a serious camera, it's just a toy, and as a toy, I think it's pretty good fun. But yeah, I do apologise for you having to sit through some fairly mediocre shots, although I do quite like the buoy one. You can't really see that. There you go. Not so much this one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I had fun. And the workshops that I mentioned in last week's video, if there are any spaces left on the Scotland, Faroe Islands, Llyn, and Svalbard trip, that is one trip, if there are any spaces left, I'll still have the link in the description. And if we've announced dates for the Antarctica trip yet, then I'll have that down in the description as well. The print sale has got a few days left to run. It will be running until the 31st of March, at which point the prints will go back to full price if there are any left. And last but definitely not least, a big thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Squarespace. So as I'm sure you know by now, I've used Squarespace for years, primarily as a portfolio tool for showing my work online. And as my business has grown, I've used other elements of Squarespace, the newsletter functionality, the online store functionality, but first and foremost, it remains a fantastic place to show my work across the world. It's super simple to use, and the analytics that come built into Squarespace are fantastic for showing you top line stats of where people are coming from, how long they're spending on certain pages, and all that is fantastically helpful. So if you're a photographer and you're looking to show your work online, then I definitely recommend checking out Squarespace. And you can do so for absolutely free by going to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, then just go to squarespace.com/James and you'll get 10% off that first purchase. So big thank you to Squarespace, and of course to you for watching me take, well, shots like that. Not great. I'll attempt to do better next week. I'll see you then.